What's up, Emily?
Hey, I'm excited for
Eh,
this conversation today.
Yeah, me too. This was for those watching. This was actually, I know we co-created this, but I think you kind of led the charge on even having this idea of like you were like, man, we got to do something together. Our chats are way too spicy to be left privately. We got to open this thing up.
Yeah. Well, and there's so much like the conversations we have are so real that I think that's something that's kind of missing in the marketplace. It's like how to, tackle this thing in 5 easy steps. And it's like that's not always how it works. Like entrepreneurship is a journey and not
Yeah,
always a fun one.
yeah, that's definitely true. Um, And yeah, I think that's important. Like we got to lead the charge in that way and talk about these somewhat of these difficult topics. And I think show people that it's okay to do it and give them implicit permission to share their journeys and their ugly truths as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's why we're doing this thing. So I'd love for people that are in the chat to let us know that you are here and can see us and that you can hear us just well. Let me know if you got it, if you see anything popping up on your side.
All right.
I'll try to monitor LinkedIn as well. But yeah, y'all let us know if y'all are in here watching at the same time, and we'll look at comments as they come in.
Yeah, we wanted to start with the topic of money because that's one of those ones that people are like, ooh, they're either not talking about it or they know they need to talk about it and are not talking about it. So we're just gonna, dive right into the uncomfortable conversation of money and business and making money moves. So we're gonna start by kind of talking about like if you want to start and talk about your like money story, and then we can kind of go from there. And if anybody has questions or comments, please drop them in the chat as we go and we'll address them as we're doing this thing.
Yes, most certainly. And hey, Kinga, hope you're doing well. Can you see that comment on the screen yourself,
Yeah.
Emily?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Uh, yeah, so my money story. I mean, we don't have the time, obviously, to go through everything, but I thought it's important to look at how we got to a point in our respective careers where we were running low on money, and perhaps the way that we grew up, like circumstances around perhaps a lot of poverty or a lot of abundance around money. I don't know your stories, those of you watching this live and in the replay, but for me, I grew up, I would say, on the poverty side of the scale. I would describe, um yeah, like low income, housing, and not having much to work with around the house. I don't recall getting a like a formal allowance or anything like on a weekly basis. So when I saw kids on Nickelodeon or something getting that in these TV shows, I was like, that's nice. I never knew what that was like. And but I knew I wanted things, and that gave me, I believe, an entrepreneurial spirit at a young age to say, well, I can't really get this at home, or the things that I want as a young kid, 12, 13 years old. Um, how can I make some money for myself? And I just started in the fall, like bagging up pecans and going door to door. And I started mowing lawns and things. But I guess I was just wired differently. Like that was what I was inclined to do. I didn't like sit around waiting on a handout. I was making money at an early age. But yeah, I remember growing up, man, money was tight around the house. There was not enough to go around. There wasn't no such thing as savings account or having growing up in a household where like money was talked about and how to invest it, how to move with this. And so I had to learn a lot on my own
Mm.
growing up as a child in the 80s that relocated from Chicago down here to Huntersville. And the last thing I think on that journey that I want to say is I remember one of the things, one of the key moments that I would say that I remember pretty vividly was like my first I was working at Chick-fil-A when I was 14 and a half years old. That was the first job that I had that was like a legit job. And my very first check after working for 2 weeks, I was making $5.25 an hour. This was in '99. And I remember I had a check around like $125 or something after taxes. and I had wanted to buy some Air Force Ones kicks, the all white ones back then, because I had the style. I had to be styling on you. And that was all that I wanted. I saved up for 2 weeks on that. And I remember that I was going to cash the check, and then I had to take a portion of that I didn't know at the time, a huge portion of that, and put that forth on bills. And kind of what that did to me psychologically, Emily, from that point forward, just I held resentment at my folks about that. Like, how could things get to a point where it's like your very first check that you earn in your own money, and seeing all of the other kids that I grew up with who were like driving around in their own cars, or if they working, they were able to take all their money and buy all the gear that they wanted to, or put it in the gas tank. They never had to put money back into the household. And so feeling not jealousy, but just like, man, like, well, I guess, yeah, that is a little bit of envy there. Like, I wish I had that, but not in a hating way. It's just like, man, your very first check, and that stained me for a long time. Like, I might just now be getting over that. Even though it's something small, that's what sticks out a lot to me. And I wanted to share that with you for the first time, Emily, with the people that are watching this, that it may be stupid at the time and the things that I wanted to purchase, but as a child, that's, to me, like my equivalent of probably one of the most traumatic things that I went through in terms of with money. It was just wanting to spend that money on what I wanted and not put it back in the household. And then seeing all of your friends and stuff that has something different. Let us know in the chat if you got any similar stories like that. But that's, I think, a summarized version of where I come from. What about you, Emily?
Well, and what you're saying is it kind of forces you to grow up and really, like, way faster than you were ready to, and take on an adult's role when you were still a kid yourself. So I can imagine that has always been in the back of your mind of like, who else do I need to take care of before I can take care of myself, and how that translates moving forward. I grew up middle class. My mom was a teacher. My dad was in construction, and I never went without. Like, we always had food on the table. We had opportunities, but money was always tight. And my parents sacrificed a lot in order for my sister and I to do things and get things. And when I was a kid, I didn't appreciate it the way that now, looking back, I'm like, oh, I should have appreciated this way more than I did. And still, it seems that my parents are sacrificing for other people before they invest in themselves. And that makes me really sad. And it was that model of take care of other people before you take care of yourself. And I've been working really hard to undo that learning, because it's not only with money, but it's with everything else, with my time, with my energy, with all of that. And it wasn't until I moved to the West Coast, where I have no family around, that I didn't have to make time for all these things that I wasn't really wanting to make time for. Not that I don't want to spend time with my family or spend time with the people I love, but when you're always putting other people first, especially after you have a family, it takes a toll. And for me, I worked a lot too. I worked a bunch of different jobs when I was a maid, and I realized real quick I didn't want to do that for my life. I worked in a pizza place. I was a manager, cook, and a driver, and made like $6.75 an hour. That was my favorite job. But it was really interesting to see too, when I was doing that, there were times that I would go and deliver pizzas to the folks in the trailer park and then the folks by the golf course. And the folks in the trailer park always tipped me really well. Their walks were always shoveled. Their lights were always on. And when I would go out to the golf course, it was not the same. It was like the change on the bill and like nothing more. And it was dark. There were like the sidewalk was full of snow in the wintertime. And there was one time I dropped my money bag on a delivery. And somebody, when I went out to the trailer park, and somebody had called and said, hey, your driver dropped this and you need to have her come back because I don't want her to lose all this money. And I was like, whew, if I had lost this anywhere else, chances are I'd never see that money again. And it would be coming out of my paycheck to pay it back.
And that was in the trailer park?
Yeah.
Wow. No judging books by covers, man. No judging books by covers. Wow. Very fascinating.
Yeah. So Yeah, I think too, when I'm now that I'm owning my own, but it's interesting too that you own your own business and that you're doing this, because I always grew up with my parents saying, get a stable job, like get something that's going to be a regular paycheck that you can get a pension when you retire and all, and I was like, that's not real.
Right.
This is not like, okay, yes, that could be a consistent, stable job, but you're not going to move up. You're not going to like reach new heights when you stay in the same place for 30 plus years. And it's interesting that both you and I went out on our entrepreneurial paths to see like, what can we make for ourselves that I don't have to rely on somebody else in order to make it happen? Like, how do I make this happen for me?
Yeah, 1000%. And you know, though you grew up middle class, I was probably low class, always working my way up. You know, it does something to you, Emily, when it's just like when you think about your self-worth, your feelings around that, when you never got enough to kind of go around and kind of live in check to check and stuff for a minute. There's still a lot of difficulty in there, a lot of experimentation in terms of with my story. But I've always realized ever since I was young that I had value.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I had value because people were paying me before I knew what this was. And I remember drawing in class way back in grade school, 4th, 5th grade, just drawing like superheroes and things, being in my own zone, like in the back of the class somewhere. And then people coming up to me, handing me their lunch money, $2 here, $3 there to draw them and stuff. And I was making it and I was getting it early. But you know, you still think about your worth. You still think, how am I ever going to make something out of all of this? And you feel like you have a lower starting point just already as it is. I remember in 2003, graduating college, which I pretty much had to pay for all myself. I was working a job while paying for college. And then I still exited college $20,000 in the hole and getting my first job, my first and only job, like right before I did entrepreneurship full time as a graphic designer for 4 years at a promotional products firm, but still like not even being in the black, like coming, and I must have been like 20 or something at that time, maybe 19, 20 years old, and just always feeling like you behind. But from the standpoint of like, man, you're a lot of your peers, it feels like they had a head start or they were given allowance, or even if you had hardworking peers, they were still able to put that money whatever they wanted to. They had their college already taken care of. They had their ride taken care of. Oh, sorry for the thumbs up. It's funny. That's a little emoji thing. Anyway, so fast forwarding, running low on money, it's like, yeah, for the story of my life, even starting in 2008 as an entrepreneur, still having debt. And I talk about this in a lot of my webinars, like the 20,000 that I had owed in college. I didn't really have any credit cards at that point, but I think I took out like a consumer loan in addition to the college debt I was carrying, and then like still making a call to bet on myself and say, I got to turn this around somehow. It's not going to come to me any other way. What I don't demand isn't going to come to me. My life has never went easy in that way. Like you said, it forced me to grow up really quickly and just say, well, I got to earn this. But what does earning it mean? What do you feel about your own self-worth? Like, what does that look like? And how do you show improve at the same time? How do you earn what you are, what your value has been equated as, right? And then you're dealing with all types of societal stigmas probably around that. You're trying to appear as though you got it together because you want people to hire you, and you need to look your best. You need to be presentable, and you need to articulate yourself, I think, a certain way, at least when it comes to your topic, your niche, what you supposedly is skilled at. And for me, that was design. So it's always been a learning journey for me. But I spent a lot of my life like living from proverbial check to check, even as an entrepreneur. And it wasn't until these last recent years for me, maybe about the last 6 or 7, we'll say as a whole, where it's like, okay, I'm getting the value and I'm earning enough to have some degree of disposable income. But that's like 3/4 of my life wasn't like that. 80% of it. It's check to check, still trying to make ends meet, even as an entrepreneur. you got to do your own taxes, bookkeeping. I know we're going to talk about some of those things, but what about for you, Emily, your journey as you had crossed over in that threshold into entrepreneurship? Were things difficult for you money-wise and with your husband, who may have been your boyfriend or something at the time, or before you had kids, like all of that converging into one? What would things look like for you?
Well, okay, so it's kind of interesting because when I was teaching, so I started my career as a teacher. My husband was in school. He started college late because he went to war. He was in the army.
Okay.
So we had money. I was saving a ton of money, but we never did anything. We never went on trips. We never spent any money because it was ingrained in us that money is scarce. You have to hold on to it. You have to save it. You can't do anything frivolous with it because what if it goes away? And so we were both under this mindset of like, okay, we'll just put it away, put it away, put it away, put it away. And then we had kids and we were like, shit, we should have done something with this money for us before we had a house and children to provide for. And it's interesting that you say, I'm kind of thinking about some of how I've thought about things. And I think this is true. And I'm not going to say this blanket statement. I am going to say it, but it's not fully, it may not be fully true, but I think women are often expected to provide value for nothing. Like it's the expectation of like, you're going to do this for me because that's just who you are. You're a giver, you're a nurturer, you take care of people. And that was kind of ingrained in me when my parents would ask us to help with other people's stuff of like, oh, come and help them do these things. And I'm like, but what? Shouldn't I get paid for that? Like that should be something I get paid for. And so going into entrepreneurship, I know when I first started, I was in this class and it was called Making the Leap. And we were talking about like leaving my 9-to-5 to go into entrepreneurship. And the coach had asked me, she was like, what are you going to charge for your services? And I was like, I don't know, probably, $50 an hour. She's like, no, we're starting at 100. And I was like, can I do that? He's like, yes, yes, you can. And so that was my first, like, okay, let's see what happens. So I asked for $100 an hour and I got it. And then the next time I realized like, okay, there's more, I'm adding more value. So this package could be more. And then I asked for more and more showed up. And so I was like, but there definitely hits this like threshold for me where I'm like, can I really do that? And I like hesitate to offer something at a higher rate because what I do comes so naturally to me that it doesn't feel like a big deal, but the gains that my clients are getting are huge and life-changing. And I'm like, yes, I should be charging for those things because it's the experience of all these pieces that have led me here. And there's still days, and you and I've talked about this before, there's still days where I doubt, like, is it really worth it? And the answer is yes, it is. And I would tell every single one of my clients, yes, charge more for that thing. But to tell myself that is really hard. So I get myself in a predicament sometimes where I'm like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't offer, maybe I should discount it because it's not a big deal to me and it won't take me very long. And it's like, stop it.
Yeah.
Myself like I would coach my clients.
Yeah. You got to walk that. Kinga was saying, unfortunately, this is so true. I think to what you were saying about the expectations on women in terms of just doing it for free. Yeah. And Natasha's chiming in here. I'll let you read that here on the screen.
Oh yeah.
Man, it's free or low cost. So this is insane. And I think one thing that works for me mentally when it comes to like, oh, should I charge? Should I do this? Is like, you got to realize that like, every person that is hiring you as an investment into their business is planning to get some ROI off of that to some degree. So you never could charge enough. And I wonder if we could ever truly earn whatever we're worth because someone still has to make money off of you. So it's like, I guess probably the nicest thing that you could do if you had an employee would be like, yeah, I'm hiring you and I just completely break even with you. I don't earn any money off you, but you also earn enough to feel good and to feel valued. but you're zeroed out in terms of a business expense or what you're bringing back to me. That's about the most I feel like we can do if we are to hire other people.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we have to shift things. I think we got to get our consumers and our clients to think of us as investments and not expenses. And I think that's education. I think it has to come from us, usually, like us being the service provider, to make that explicit and aware and obvious to them. Otherwise, what isn't demanded is rarely given on principle. So that's another thing that you got to do. If you're going to bet on yourself, yeah, you got to have a high degree of confidence. Switching gears a little bit here into, making moves by running low on money. You must have been through some ups and downs as an entrepreneur, because every peak has at least 2 valleys. So if you're like me, you failed twice as much as you've succeeded. And these little bit of successes that you have, 2 or 3 successes, it's like, yeah, what about the 50 failures that it took to get to that point, right? It's that iceberg graphic of like, the peak that's here, but you got the waterline and all of this stuff that we don't talk about. So for you, Em, running low running low on money and still trying to make moves. What did you do the last time that you were running low as an entrepreneur, and what did you do to kind of get up out that? If there was a breakthrough moment for you that we could share and learn from.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to share my first one. So my first one was when I first started my business. I had planned to do contracted business development work because everyone said, this is what you're so good at. You can have a business doing this. And I did it for the first 5 months of my business, and I hated every single second of it. It was so draining on my energy. It wasn't that many hours a week, and it was my most consistent client, like most consistent money. And it was quite a bit for starting my business. But I was like, I can't do this. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing. And so at the end of December of 2021, I cut it off and went straight to zero. No clients, nothing in the pipeline, no idea what was going to happen. But I was like, I know that when I release the thing that is not meant for me, that other opportunities will come in. And that's exactly what happened. And January, I had 2 clients. February, I had 3 clients. And it grew for a little while. And then there hit a valley, and I went, okay, I have no clients or I have only a couple of clients. And so it was a little bit stressful. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do now? And I've created programs in that time of like, okay, what am I going to do to get things back up and going? And all the clients that have come to me in those times of like, I have faith that it's all going to work out. Like, I don't know what, it's maybe blind faith, but it's faith nonetheless of like, I know that what's meant for me is going to come for me. And if I try and make something out of desperation, it's not going to work. Or it might work a little, but it's not going to work long-term. So really getting grounded in, okay, this is who I'm supposed to show up for. This is how I'm supposed to show up. And these are the people I need to invest in order to help me get to where I need to go. And my business has operated at like break even or a loss, like since I started, because I'm still learning. I'm 2.5 years into my business. And so I would rather make the investments now and learn from my mistakes and continue to support people while also getting the support I need to not lose my mind while I'm trying to build this thing. And it all works out. I don't know how, but it does. I have faith that the universe is going to give me what I need to make things work. And I know that I'm at the top of the peak now, and I'm about to hit a wave, and it's going to be a big one.
And what's that saying? Sometimes a rising tide lifts all boats. So that helps you show up differently for your clients. Your clients rise as a because your confidence will show up differently. Your belief in your own skills. You're earning what you feel like you're worth. You're being valued. You love the work that you're doing. That's lifting all boats right there. It's not even just you. It changes everything for everyone that you end up interacting with. So
and I've had moments of like, oh, maybe I should get a job. And then I'm like, no, that's not going to solve the problem. I'm meant to be here doing this work. And if I get a job and take the energy that I'm like this creation energy away from what I'm doing, I'm not going to be happy. I'm going to switch, and I'm going to be there for a hot minute, and then I'm gonna be like, I can't do this anymore. It's time for me to move on. I am a person that will not stay someplace if it's not meant for me.
Yes. So for those of y'all watching this or just now coming in, I just now realized this myself, actually. So Emily is very early on her entrepreneurial journey compared to me. So I'm at like we'll say 15 and a half years. You're at 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So we're at opposite ends of the spectrum. So you're getting a twofer right now in terms of a very varied conversation around making moves while running low on money. And it's not easy. And I just think, man, especially if you're creative, and I think most people are inherently creative. I think that if you are able to not have much food in the refrigerator and somehow make a 5-star meal with hamburger helper perhaps or ramen noodles, like you still have to make things work, or you got multiple mouths and things to feed. It's a fascinating thing that it, for lack of a better word, just it forces you, and it could forge a new version of you to say, well, what do I do when my back's against the wall? What do I do when I'm cornered? Even if it is self-imposed cornering, like I chose to do this, or I chose to gamble in a certain way and it didn't work out. How do I keep going? How do I still make those moves? And I would say for me over these last 15 years, so many valleys, way more valleys than peaks. The key word that comes to me, Emily, is being resourceful and thinking about resourcefulness, not your resources. Mm-hmm. And I always think back, I was like, growing up, I didn't have access to the best pens and pencils when it came to drawing stuff. I'd find a big pen just like on a counter somewhere at a friend's house and a napkin, and I'd always still draw. I never waited until I had sketch paper that I could go to Michael's and go buy, and like the perfect tool set and all of these things. It was just like make art no matter what you got. If you got a rock and cement outside, like that's your chalk. Mm-hmm. And really doing stuff like that, or creating like double Dutch games and stuff for people on the ground, or drawing tic-tac-toe, whatever it is. That's been the story of my life, Em. I don't need the tools. What I need is to lean on being resourceful and saying, mm-hmm. How can I use what exists around me at this given time, what I know? I don't need to learn anything new. I don't need to know anyone else. And I don't need access to these tools. How do I make something with the proverbial fridge when it's just mayo in there, ketchup, perhaps maybe some leftover lunch meat, and somehow still make a 5-star menu? And the person would never know that you didn't have access to those tools. So I always lean on my resourcefulness. And I say, I haven't tried everything to get out of the situation. And I will never have tried everything because it's impossible to. There are a million things I could try. There are a million people I could talk to, a million different ways that you could talk to them. And so, if I want y'all to chime in here in the chat as well too. What you've done when you have ran low on money to get up out that, to go from basically valley to peak. Mm-hmm. For me, it's been leaning on resourceful and saying, how can I use, really asking that question and seeing what that means? How can I mix in the exact access that I have to these things at this time? And where is some key points that I could play around with the Rubik's Cube a little bit? That usually works. Resourcefulness, making a new way. And then the last thing that I would say to that end is, a lot of things can be chalked up, I feel like, in business. This is me coming from somebody who's been in it a little bit longer than you, is if you're not making the moves that you need to, or possibly not earning what you have to, you can likely trace that back to not having enough conversations with people. Conversations mm-hmm. don't cost you any money usually. It just costs you time and a curiosity to see, well, let me just have some new conversations with people. The same people that I already know, my peers, or new people as a whole, and just having one-to-one chats with people. They may not become your clients, but they might know someone who does and is a good referral for you, and you just showing up to let people know, hey, man, I'm struggling right now just in terms of project. I know I got a lot of value, and I know I'm in a peak right now. Like, do you know anyone? And if you don't, that's all good. I'm just letting you know that I'm available and stuff right now, and I can show up to you in any way. And if you don't got to pay me anything, but I noticed on your landing page, like, there's some kinks in it. How about I just do it for you for free? And like, I can just use that in my portfolio, find some other work just by getting permission to design your landing page for you and like doing something free for you, because that's going to add to not only my portfolio, not only to my skill set, but now I can go pitch this somewhere else. Like, it's so many different ways to play around to things. And so that's one of the biggest gems that I've learned. If you're not hitting your own goals, you can usually chalk that up to not having enough conversations and stuff with people. So if you're dead on business, if you're dead on running low, start having some chats and watch your bubbles start colliding with other bubbles and forming new things. You will be surprised and get business in ways that you didn't think that you would. And sometimes it's not the very straightforward way of saying, oh, okay, I'm hopping on the line with Emily to try to convince her to go from lead to client. No, you got to be resourceful. She might not need you in that way. You might not even be a person that's like my ideal client. And so just, again, having conversations, just letting people know that you exist. Hey, Em, can I buy you a coffee? Let's hop on. I just want to see what's going on with you and let you know what's going on with me and let you be on your way, and just making that work. So that's what's helped for me. What do you, what's good for you?
So that's spot on to some of the things that I like support my clients with, is helping them identify those power partners that are going to help get them in front of their ideal audience. And when you're adding value to the relationships that you have in various ways, I think this is one of the lessons that I learned out of Give It All Away, that I'm trying not to give it all away, but I'm trying to be very strategic in what I give away, is that when you pour in and you add value to the relationships that you have, that comes back to you. It's good karma. It's good karma.
And you should be doing it. Yeah, you should especially be doing it when you're not busy. Like, you should be grateful for that time that you can get to know people, that you can take a break, reflect. Like, I try to be grateful for when I have those peaks, because I'm saying, oh, there's a gem here. It's not an obstacle. It's an opportunity. Right. Change the O's around, because I promise you there's some gold in here. Like, you probably got yourself into this mess in the first place. So first, humble yourself, check yourself. Like, the foolish pride got you only so far. Now you got to change some things, first off. And then secondly, have 5 calls with some of your favorite peers over the next month and watch how much better you feel, how much more confidence you have, how much people want to support you, and just like moral support, just showing up, just giving you their presence. And obviously, all of that doesn't pay the bills. But just as Natasha's chiming in here now, it's just like, yeah, we might be embarrassed to let our existing clients or our prior clients know that, hey, we're available. But it's just like, no, real things happen sometimes. Like, you could have had a contract, but what if that person died or something, and you up and move? Or like the actor strike thing that's going on, like the below the line workers who are caterers who like up and left and said, oh, okay, Leo DiCaprio is doing a movie for the next 3 months, and me and my family are going to pack up from North Carolina and go to Seattle. And, I got work for the next 3 months, so we good. And it's just like, no, but then a strike happens. Right. So it's just like things that you can't control. So how do you still have value? You're still good at what you do, whether you're catering food, whether you are a prop or a set dresser, to still be. Oh, and that's why, and I think you would agree with this, Emily. Like, you always got to be branding yourself. You always got to be adding value as much as you can, and because you never know when you're going to need on that good look from somebody, or that endorsement from somebody that you showed up for. Because Emily, like in that example I just gave you, you're going to remember that I showed up and I was like, man, you know what? I don't got, I would really love to be paid for this, but I recognize that Emily does have something that I can fix on her landing page, and I really do got the time to do it. So let me just do that for her. You're never going to forget that. And it costs you nothing to take it or run with it or to use it or not. But it has an effect on you. It has a lasting effect, and it's different from the way I think people approach business. So I just really get uber resourceful when I'm running low. And I always think about, how did I get myself in this mess in the first place, which I think is a separate side of the coin. We got to watch out for those things to even be running low. Like we were talking about pre-chat, Emily, bookkeeper is going to help. Like, don't try to do this all yourself. If you're running low on money, you probably, a lot of us, bookkeeper could help out with that.
And taking a discerning look at what you're investing in, because sometimes we want to have all the things, the top bells and whistles to make the business go, when when we're not there yet. Like you can run lean and mean for a long time before you need to invest in all these programs and all these things. And one of the things I was telling you about this earlier is when I went through this book club earlier this year, the Profit First book club, and it changed the way that I looked at my business finances in such like, oh my God, this is what I needed. Like it made me be able to see, okay, I can pay myself this much because I percentaged out all the pieces, like what's for operating, what's for taxes, what's for profit, what's for owner's comp. And that changed the way that I looked at my business, where I can strategically make moves now, knowing I have the money to do it, rather than, and knowing like, okay, if I really want to pay myself that much, I need to sell this many more things in order for me to get to that point. And it's not guessing anymore. And I think that's where you shift into like from startup mode, where you're being scrappy and just like trying to hustle your way forward, to no, I'm making strategic decisions based on what I can see here is real, and not
I
just
love that
made up. Oh yeah, I can pay myself $5,000 this month and be like, oh shit, I can't pay for my CRM or my like all of these other things. And then
you're right. You're so right with this, and I'm so glad that you're able to start this early, like 2.5 years into your journey, versus the way that I did at 15 years, kind of flying by the seat of your pants type of thing. And again, dealing with my money story of the poverty place, the money story, my value, all of the complexities and stuff around that. What do I feel like I'm worth? And then I'll get it. I always attract new projects, and I'm always attracting money, but I don't even do foolish things with it, but I clearly don't invest it in the way that I should. And like to disperse it in those ways that you just said from the profit first thing. Okay, operating expenses, taxes, profit first. Like if it's right there in the book, you know, paying yourself first and what that actually looks like, being disciplined enough to do it. And if you aren't, then that's when Emily is talking about, okay, bookkeeper. Okay, get the bookkeeper to do that for you, because if you see it, you can't trust yourself to deal with it. And I know like my personality is just like super complex. This is like, I grew up in some way, it's like you want it now and you're trying to make up for like all of the lost time and the things that you didn't have. Me buying this home, real talk, talking about real talk about it is just like, oh no, I bought this house that is way too big for two humans and a dog, but it's because I wanted it, because I didn't have it. Like growing up in tight spaces and not enough to go around, and then you like overcompensate as an adult, make foolish money decisions, again, self-imposed. And I'm just like, how can you be so smart at some things like that and make like really stupid decisions, not living below your means, like the way you and your husband were doing, which is the way that financial advisors tell you to do it. They say, live below your means, have at least 3 months worth of runway set up. And it's like, I took that and I was like, man, but I ain't have it for so long. I got to have it out. Here's my chance to have like more than I ever had. So again, complexity, pride. It's just like, but we're human and it doesn't make sense, but somehow it does. And you're tying your emotions to it. Man, I'm being real with y'all right now about this. Like this stuff is, we bought a house that is way bigger than we need. And I'm still dealing with the ramifications of that because I'm too proud to like downgrade, because again, this is like,
you like it.
You like it, and you shouldn't have to, you know, you don't want to be able to apologize if you've earned it and you've did things the legal way and you've played by the book. But you're also looking at just your own, I think, kinks and shortcomings as a person, and say, well, damn, Darnell, there's some things about you that are really contradictory. And to be able to be upfront about that and transparent with y'all about it, that's why we're talking about this, and still being able to make moves. It's just like, okay, we could sell this house and downgrade and be good, and probably should do things the way that financial advisors would say, and to be safe. But then it's like, if you're an entrepreneur, that's antithetical to how you operate, because if you're an entrepreneur, you're a gambler. You're in the risk-taking business. You're betting on yourself. Yeah. You might as well be at the casino with your hand, you know, playing Texas Hold'em and still trying to make moves and stuff happen.
Oh, you muted.
Am I good now?
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay. Oh, fireworks. Yeah, I guess I must be good. giving y'all special effects and stuff right now. Y'all didn't know Spielberg and them was gonna be in the house. Okay, back on this topic. So
Okay, but that's really interesting too, though, because I feel like we both grew up in a generation that didn't talk about money. Like, and it was impolite to talk about money. And so we didn't get the formal education of like what we should be doing that's going to actually help us in the long run. It was get a steady job, put money into your 401k, and then retire at what, 85? Like it wasn't
that
it was the life we didn't actually want to have. So looking at that, like that doesn't sound like a good time. Like that sounds terrible. So how can we have to learn all these things, and things are changing all the time. The world is not the same as it was when our parents were growing up, and you could have a steady job that paid you what you needed to make, and living expenses were actually attainable. I mean, now if you were to sell your house and try and buy another one, your interest rate's going to be 8.5%. And that's not going to get you any further ahead than what you are right now. So it's like,
nope. Exactly. And here in the States, I mean, I don't know if the school system is still like this, but certainly when I was growing up, the school system isn't designed to make more entrepreneurs. Like it's all about making you, a traditional employee, for lack of better words. I mean, we're being pessimistic, like a cog in a wheel, pretty much, of just like being in a normal labor force, and you're not really necessarily questioning your superiors about why you even got to only be relegated to becoming like an engineer or a lawyer or something. Not that anything is wrong with that, but the school system as I was growing up and all time before that is not designed to build for entrepreneurs. So you either got to learn it trial by fire style, or you have to seek out education and mentors like post high school, or maybe even while you're doing it if you really got good people around you. Because you're not going to find that in the traditional education system. So everything that you just said, am compounded by the fact that you don't learn how to be one. So this is like, this is crazy right now.
And going back to what you were saying, it's about having conversations with lots of different people and seeing who you can learn from, and how to show them what it is that you do so that they think of you when somebody else in their world comes around and is like, hey, I need help with this kind of thing. Oh, you need to go talk to Darnell about that. He's the guy. And being that top of mind person that you're pouring into these relationships, adding value. Like Natasha and I last week, we had a co-working day and we solved all of the problems, didn't we, Natasha? We created
let us know in the chat.
Really cool offers for both of us. We like looked at where we were undervaluing our own selves, but having somebody else be able to say like, actually, no, you should be charging more for that because these are all the value points that you're adding to the clients you're working with. So it's having those friends that are also going to call you out when, like you do for me, and vice versa, where we're able to say like, no, we're not doing that. How else can we do this in a way that's actually going to benefit both you and your client?
Yeah, exactly. So all right, well, we're coming up on time here, and this was fun. I'd love for y'all to let us know in the chat if y'all would like Em and I to. We got other topics. We got 9 other ones that we could go through. This was the first one on the list. She texted me. She's not texting me. She DM'd me, and she, I don't know if you went to AI or not and like looked at, okay, well, what's some things that we could talk about, and like copied and pasted. And I was just like, yeah, let's just go through them all chronologically. Great topics. So let us know in the chat if you would like us to speak on some other things that are hard topics to discuss in creative entrepreneurship, and we are happy to do that. But I would just leave folks with this, like, and you could tell them as well from your own voice. But for me, if I was to leave people with one key takeaway, making moves while running low on money, mine would be to lean on your resourcefulness rather than your resources. Ask yourself, what can I do with what I have access to at this time? Not learning anything else, not taking another course, not saying, oh, I need to have access to these other people and stuff, because sometimes that's not going to work. What can you do with what exists at this time? And is there a little bit more creative juice that you could squeeze out of the people you know, the access to the things that you have, your money situation at that point in time, your education and skill set? And could you have some new conversations, perhaps, that cost you nothing, that could lead to other opportunities? And that's what I would, that's what I do when I am running low. I reflect, I ground myself first off, I try not to make that same mistake again. I go corner myself and like, damn, like it's usually self-imposed. So a lot of this falls on my shoulders. But becoming resourceful and what you got for people making moves while running low on money. If you got a key takeaway for people, what is something that they can do when they are running low to start making moves again?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that, again, I would look into Profit First if you've never experienced that or
who's that by again? Who's that by?
Michaelwitz. Michaelwitz. I'm like, who named this guy? Anyway, it's a good book. But really taking stock in what you're investing in right now and seeing, is there something I can put a pause on for now until I get myself to where I need to be? But then also start actually taking action on things. The biggest thing that I see with a lot of my clients is they have a bunch of opportunities and they don't follow up with any of them. So take the time to look through your CRM, look through the conversations you've had over the last month or two and see who you can follow up with, add value to that conversation and say, hey, how can I help you with this? Or what are the things that you need support with right now that maybe I could connect you with somebody in my network? And really coming from a value add place of, hey, I just want you to know I'm still here if you need me. If you don't, totally cool. But if there's anyone I can connect you with, let me know. So that then they're going to be like, maybe I should circle back and have a conversation about maybe working together in the future. But taking a look at, where are you investing your time and energy right now? And is it actually giving you an ROI, or is it something that's costing you more time and energy, and putting a pause or cutting out some of those things in the meantime?
That sounds like expenses versus investments. You need to put more things in the investment column versus just mindlessly spending or habitual spending that ain't bringing back more of its friends. That is not a return, that not ROI. So I just wanted to put these on the screen real quick for you. Kinga says, keep on going. When it comes to us having more chats like this, Natasha, yes, please, love the conversation and being honest about tough times. Tyler, love watching these and participating. So we might have to do this again at some point, Em.
I feel like this was a success. So we're going to do it again next month. And I can't remember what our next topic is going to be, but I think it was something about like, when is it time to add team members? Maybe. I don't know. We'll let you know. We'll let you know.
Yeah, we'll let y'all know. Yeah. So, thank you, Em, for your time, for your candor, for you being transparent with us about some stuff that you're going through. We knew that both of us would learn new things about each other. I appreciate those watching right here live with us, giving us some company in the chat, letting us know that we're not alone, man. We might be anomalies in our respective industries, but we clearly are going through things that's real to people. Like, money struggles are real. I'm glad that we were able to speak on that, and maybe we'll have a follow-up chat on that too, because it's a Rubik's Cube of a conversation. But I'm happy that we got to spend this time together and go through this thing and perhaps give people some value. So lastly, for you, where can people find out more about you, Emily, and more of your work? What they got to do?
Well, Forge, if you're a member of Forge, send me a DM. If we are not connected through Forge, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to chat. And I love the puzzle pieces of like, let's find the opportunities and help you grow. So, I mean, lean on both Darnell and I, and we're here to support other creative entrepreneurs who are, trying to build the dream.
Yeah. You got a website too?
Yep. BlueHeronBusinessPartners.com.
Okay, cool.
And
cool.
I want to hear from the people that were here. What were some of your takeaways? Like, what are some of the things that you enjoyed hearing, or things that you'd like to speak on, us to speak on next time, so that we can come up with an even spicier chat next time?
Yeah, definitely let us know. And for those watching the replay, like, you're still able to comment on this event page after the fact anyway. So yeah, do let us know what worked for you, and so that way we can build on that in future chats and things. So yeah, we do want to hear from y'all. We love that y'all have participated in this. Y'all make our jobs. It's not even a job. Like, this is fun. This is just two peers and friends just having a chat. So thank you for that.
So how are people getting in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can just go to darnellbrown.com. That's my main website, darnellbrown.com/help. That's where I have my video ask set up. So it's kind of like an interactive video series that'll guide you to where you need to go. I usually send people there too. So yeah, that's where people can find out more about what I'm up to. And then, I'm here on LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook and all the things at Bulletproof Hustle. So yeah, that's what we got for people. And of course, for Forge, that's what Em was talking about earlier. So darnellbrown.com/Forge, where you can go to learn some more information about that. But otherwise, we will see y'all on the flip side. Em, thank you again for your time and for those in the chat. And maybe we'll see y'all soon with something else. All right, I will end the stream now. Peace out, y'all. Oh, we got to take a snap. Well, me and you will after the fact.
Okay.
All right, let me end the stream.